In this demonstration, we are going to learn one more concept in Oracle Visual Builder that is called as the collection container. Collection container is most widely used component while building any reload or any Oracle Visual Builder application. So in order to know what is the collection container, how to use the collection container, we can have a documentation for the same by going over to the extensions and searching for the collection container over here. And you can click on this collection container. Suppose if it is not installed on your application, just click on the install. It's already installed in my application. I don't want to install again. Here you will get the details of all the details available in the collection container, like the features and how to use the specific feature in the container. And also if you look at the APIs, you will get the definition for each and every attribute available in the container. So keeping this aside, let's go ahead with the hands-on. I will just minimize this section. Let me drag and drop it over here in the default slot. As soon as you drop the collection container, you would be seeing two slots. One is the search slot and another is a collection slot. Collection container is basically used in order to show the collections, that is the array of data like the table or the list view, where we will get the n number of records in the UI. For demonstration purpose, I have created a Fusion REST API over here and I will be populating the collection container with the supplier information like the name, ID, so on and so forth. Let me just go back to my page. I will over to the data over here, expand the services, expand my service connection. I would be seeing get many supplier. I will drag and drop it over here. As soon as you drop, you can select either list, table or the dynamic collection components like the tables and the list. I will be going for the simple table. Click on this. From the add data wizard over here, I will be adding the supplier name, the ID or the number I will add, the status, then the ER of established, and then the relationship, that is the business relationship, whether the supplier is a prospective supplier or the spend authorized. Click on next. Suppose if you want to pass any parameters to the API, you can provide it over here. I will keep this default, clicking on finish. Here I will be getting the details of all the suppliers. Suppose if you want to query this supplier record, what you can do is you can just drop the input search component over here. Let me just search for the input search and drop it in the search slot. As soon as you type the information over here like the supplier name, it will query over here. This we will take at the later point of time. Now the main feature of collection container is you don't have to worry much about designing the buttons or the attributes around this data like the collection container. Here in this case, it's a table. Suppose if you want to create the add button, delete button, managing the column or record selector or the export, we can just click on this and we can have the components created over here. So you have to note that these buttons are the dummy buttons over here. They do nothing. Clicking on this is doing nothing over here. So we'll come to over here the manage columns that we will take in detail in this class. Coming to the buttons, suppose if you want to export the data, you have to write your own logic by creating the event listener on these components. Like if you select this collection container and go over to the events and click on the event listener over here, you can create an event listener for each of the components like the add, delete or the export. Similar like that, if you have the primary action or the secondary action on this, you can have a event listener specific for that. Suppose if you want to export the data, what you see in the table in the form of CSV, PDF, Excel, so on and so forth, you can just create an event listener on this export button click event. So the main interesting part for collection container is the manage the columns. Suppose if the user does not want to see the year established and the business relationship when it is launched, then what they can simply do is we can go over here and uncheck. So we'll see how we can do that. In order to achieve this, we have to go to the collection container and we can have a look at the documentation for the same over here. Collection container basically having the concept called as active columns and the hidden columns. So we can associate our table data to these active columns so that on the page load, we can see those columns. And if the user wants to bring back the hidden columns, which is not available at the time of page launch, then they can add from the hidden columns. Let's see how it looks like over here in action. First of all, I will create a variable with the name active column. So in the documentation, it says it's an array of objects that is over here and they are having two parameters, ID and the header text. So we have to create basically those two records over here. That is, it's an array of object and we have to create two fields. One is the ID, another one is the header text. Both are of string type. With this created, let's go back to our page and we have to associate this to the active columns over here. So before that, we have to get the data from our table. So if you click on this table and go over to the all, you will see the data over here associated with the table. We have to copy this from here, go over to the variable section, select the active columns, and in the default value, you can just paste it over here. Now, if you closely observe, we are not having the ID in this data which we have copy pasted from the table, and header text we will have, but the two fields like the field and the sortable we are not having in this active columns. So we will first of all try to add this in our active columns which we are missing from the data. Sortable is there. Suppose in your table, if you are having a template and any other kind of attributes, then you should add over here in the active columns. So whatever your table is having, you have to add. In my table, we are having just header text, field, sortable, I'm adding. So mandatory things are ID and header text, but in order to represent the data on the table using active columns, you would be needing all the properties which your table currently using. Otherwise, your table will break. Apart from this, we would be needing the ID, which is not a property for our table, but we will try to add here. What we will do is we will try to make use of this field and replace this with the ID. So our ID will be the same name like the field name. Let me just copy this. Supplier number. This is for the status. This is for the year established. And this is for the business relationship. Like this, we have added the ID field for all the objects over here. With this created, what we will do is we will go to the page designer. From here, go to the collection container. You would be seeing the active columns property in the all. You have to click on X and select our active columns. Now we have associated our active columns to the collection container. Now we have to go to the table, and instead of directly adding the array over here, we have to refer our active columns array. Now whatever you are seeing is coming from the active columns variable which we created over here. Now user can switch over to the live mode, click on the manage columns, and if the user does not want to see the supplier, they can uncheck, so supplier field is gone. Now it is breaking, so we will try to fix that. Whenever we use the active column, there is a concept called as hidden columns. When the user tries to uncheck anything, it should sit in the hidden column. The hidden column is also having the syntax similar like this, like it will have ID and the header text. Now what we'll do is, we'll go over to the variables. I will try to duplicate this and I will name this as hidden and tab out. Now everything is copied from the active columns. What I want is on the page load, I want year of established and the business relationship to be hidden from the main table. For that purpose, I will keep these two records in the hidden columns and I will remove this from the active. On the page load, active columns is the one which is being shown on the table, as we have linked these active columns to the table. Click on save and go to the page designer, go to the collection container, and here you would be finding the hidden columns. Just associate our hidden column variable created. Now let's see this in action. Let me just preview this application. On the page load, we are just seeing the supplier number and the status. Suppose if the user wants to see the year established, just user will check this and close. Year established will be seen over here. Suppose if the user is interested in business relationship, then they can click on this business relationship and close. Business relationship data will be shown, like whether a supplier is prospective supplier or spend authorized. Also, user can shuffle the order of the columns, like I want status to be second, so status will come over here second. So these are the things which we can do using the collection container. Suppose if you want to export the data, you have to write your own logic, like how we have seen in our earlier classes. We have to build our own logic to export the data in a PDF file, Excel file, so on and so forth. Now coming to the search, what you can do is, as the user types over here in the search component, we can associate this to the SDP variable which is being used to populate the data. So let's assign this to one of the variables. Let me create over here input search variable, click on create. Now let's go and see what is the SDP it is using. It is using the suppliers list SDP. Let's go to that variable over here. It's over here and I'm interested in the Q parameter. So we are storing the input search criteria over here. What I will do is I will write over here if this is equal to null, or if this is equal to undefined. If this is equal to undefined or if this is equal to null, then what we will do is we will tell we want supplier not equal to null. So this is one of the criteria you can find in the API documentation for the Fusion suppliers. If suppose this is not null, then what we will do is we will tell it all the suppliers whose name is like, we have to write over here the input var and end this with quote. I have put here is equal to its question mark. Now let's see this in action. Click on save. Go to the page designer. Our supplier information has loaded over here. I will search over here. I want to see only supplier whose name is demo. I will be seeing all the supplier. So like this, we can make use of the collection container and have a search criteria on the collection. Also, we can have a ready-made buttons, provided you write the logic, what it has to do on click of each of the button. Also, we can manage the columns, what it has to show on the screen.